Hey everyone, Sarah here, and welcome back to another week of late season offense matches. This week saw Guinivere and Zelgius reunited with their maxed out builds. Guinivere finally got her hands on an Ascension Florid, pushing her slightly ahead of Zelgius in combined attack and speed, and making her a very reliable Bright Shrine magnet. Together with her tendency to absorb Note's menace, it makes attack speed unity an extremely consistent source of extra offensive stats. That consistency also makes null follow-up a great choice for her, letting her cut through the various follow-up effects and turn fights into a simple speed check. Pulse Smoke gives her a way to defuse enemy specials, pre-charged or otherwise, keeping the pair safe from sudden bursts of damage. Her weapons held up remarkably well over time, combining anti-mage effectiveness and post-combat healing to make her a very strong ranged specialist. As usual, I also use a second team slot for these two that gives Guinevere the option to use either Null Follow-Up or Null C Disrupt. Being able to pick the right skill for the defense at hand gives them a lot of flexibility and makes it pretty rare to find a defense that they can't handle. Zelgius, meanwhile, brought almost exactly the same skill set he used to protect Air last light season. A Savvy Fighter is an excellent option for him, letting him really take advantage of his solid speed stat while offering him access to a full Null Follow-Up. Attack Speed Bond is a convenient way to let him suppress any penalties that sneak past Guinevere, while also providing him with higher baseline stats than Unity would. Not using Lucina on the team means that he also picked up Darting Breath for the seal this time, keeping his Black Luna counterswing extremely consistent. Now that we've gone over the teams, let's get to the first match. This match will be a fun way to start off the week. It's a bit of a basic corner Catria ball setup, guarded by a near-safe Edelgard and a far-safe Hector, with a fresh addition of Duo Chrom with a pre-charged Deadeye thanks to this Quickened Pulse, and a +10 Eldigan who's quite impressive when he's maxed out like this. It's a solid enough setup, and honestly this Chrom is probably enough, combined with the Brandwind, to secure knockouts on people who might not be expecting to tank a quad. I don't really expect to have too many issues with this, though I think Gwyn and Zelgius have this in the bag. We should just be able to break our way up towards this quickly enough and close things out.
Very well.
Sustaining too much damage.
I do not object. Maybe this way. We must end this.
I'm going to take this first turn just to get in position, though. There's a few too many structures in the front to just get things going immediately. But without a dancer that's actually active on their team and a safety fence on top, there's no reason to worry about taking their time here.
Yes.
From there, though, we'll be able to get things started by just smiting Guinevere forward, having Ashe rally Air to bruise the real threats of their team.
Are you
and we'll just move Guinevere forward.
I'll keep you alive.
Zelgius
ready
and send to position.
Your orders.
As they go. I think the only damage that should be done here is from Chrom. Oh no, Hector can get some done too.
Your luck's run out.
The bonfire can do some work, but
No draw, no escape.
he's not going to survive this counterattack. Well, Bram can do a little bit, but it's not enough to actually punch the Guinevere self-healing, and it's kind of funny to see him attack before Chrom. Who doesn't actually get to use that Deadeye. It would have let him do as much damage as the Brandwind, but sadly, neither of those would be enough to let him punch through the healing of Guinevere. And from there, Zelgius should have no trouble just knocking out the rest of their team.
No draw, no
Except
escape.
for Eldigan, who can't move this turn. And now that they're out of triangle attacks, Catria is not going to get anything done. And even if Edelgard does get to use a defense tile,
Say your prayers.
the Black Luna is still enough to one-shot her.
very
From
well.
here it should be pretty straightforward to close out this match by having
What's your
Guinevere
plan?
pick up a pot.
Like this.
Smite Peony forwards.
Good morning.
Dance Zelgius.
Your orders.
And let him start working on Hildegun's health pool. I don't think we'll knock him out here, just because of the
Truly?
Courtly Candle blocking the Black Luna hit. But we should get some damage done.
One will live, one will die.
Very well.
And we'll just let Guinevere finish him off and close out the match. It's a clean way to start the week. Let's see what we get next. This match will be an interesting one. It's been a while since I saw a basic cap line like this. And part of what's surprising about it is that it's still very annoying to handle if you're not using a Farce armor. Mostly because of this Bravery, you can do quite a bit of work to Guinevere thanks to targeting her defense and getting quite a lot of support from the Hone from Erica, and potentially the extra +10 from Peony and some more from Veronica. It's a lot when it all gets put together, but I do think that she should be able to handle it as long as we're careful. We're actually going to get this started right away to give ourselves as many turns as we can to reach these pots afterwards. It's a bit annoying to reach them because, well, there's a lot of firepower here, and leaving any of these alive can cause problems if you're just trying to navigate up to here.
I bestow my blessing.
With a little bit of finagling, we can make this work. I'm actually going to make sure that we bait Veronica forward with Milla to try and make it a little easier to reach these Aether pots later. And we're going to use Ash to have Guinevere jump up this way. Then we can have Ash move over, dance her, and give Guinevere a few extra buffs. And then just have Ash rally Milla, and say go. From here, Veronica should be the first one to attack, since she has a target that she can attack without dying. And from there, I think Ray will go next, followed by Bramond and Erica. He can do a solid chunk of damage, but it's not enough to knock Guinevere out, and Bramond and Erica aren't going to really be able to do much to follow that up. Bram can do a little bit, but at this point Guinevere's already starting to heal herself, and well, Erica's not going to get anything done. Down she goes. And then Hell should just move over, get danced, and move a little further down. From here, we should be able to just move Peony down this way, move Guinevere over to limit Veronica's attack range, then swap Ash and have her rally him to make sure he punches through Hell, and then move Milla over here and continue baiting Veronica for one more turn. She should do a bit more damage here since she's out of range of Peony, and that does add up. But she can't quite finish Milla off, and, well, Zelgius is never really going to have a hard time with her. And neither will Gwyn with Peony. And from there, it should be a pretty straightforward affair to have Ash open this up, and then let Air trap Veronica in place. And then we can dance Ash, let Zelgius jump past Guinevere, have Ash jump past Air, and let Guinevere reposition her forwards and out of the way of Veronica.
I bestow my
Viola
blessing.
just moves up and out of the attack range.
Like
And I think we
this.
can actually finish this match from here. We smite her forwards, she can reposition Ash over to
Lord, ask her
find
guide
this
us.
pot on the right.
We
Guinevere
must
can
end
reach this one. And then
I'll keep you
Zelgius
alive.
can break the panic manner.
Good morning.
And Peony can jump past Noah to dance him
Your orders.
and let him close out the match.
No draw, no escape.
It's always satisfying to beat a Cav line. Let's see what we get next. This match will be a neat one. It's not too often that you see a Halloween Noe on a defense team, and backed up by a Sue with her new refine. It's kind of funny to see a Sue on a defense team since she's actually pity broken me quite a bit, and I could actually have a +4 Sue myself if I wanted to merge her. They've also got a Fallen Julia, who's not someone I see too often. Her solo conditions are a little awkward for a defense team, but if she does manage to get them online, she can be a very spooky threat. And when they're backing that up with 2 different dancers, including a remixed Legendary Azura, she can potentially get a lot further out than people expect. Especially since Azura's dance trap here onto Julia also moves Noe's threat range down to these tiles, and can definitely catch people off guard if they're not looking for it. Super guidance isn't something that people see a lot on defenses, so it's easy enough for someone to not see that coming. It's a neat team overall. It's fairly basic. I think most of these are just base kits, but I can see it doing some work. On the other hand, I don't really think Guinevere and Zelgius should have trouble here. And it will be funny to see Guinevere tanking this Sue. I'm going to take this first turn just to test this trap and start working our way up towards this formation.
Yes.
I don't need to worry about the turn 1 thanks to the safety fence, so all we have to do here is
We
get
must
people
end
moving
this.
into position
Like this.
to start the fight next turn. And isolating Azura here means that even if we weren't starting the fight here, we'd be able to take our time going forward.
Very well.
What we're going to do is just rally Guinevere, and then
Are
move
you
her
certain?
here,
I bestow my
and smite her
blessing.
forward to tank all of the ranged, and also find the real gravity trap. Nice. It's actually fun to note that Noe's refine can let her jump past somebody who's just standing on this tile,
Good morning.
but thankfully my approach
keep you alive.
does actually
It will be
work around
done.
that and keep us out of range of Noe, except for Guinevere, who she's forced to attack.
The glimmer of life.
And I'll just move her over here and say go. First thing that happens is a quick rally from Sothis, and then Sue goes in. And she can do a chunk of damage. And her weapon does actually neutralize Guinevere's own weapon. But unfortunately, Noe is not going to do any damage. Which means that Guinevere just gets to start healing right back up. Especially when Azura attacks her next and also won't be able to do any damage. And from there it should be pretty smooth sailing. Or even just helpfully tops Guinevere right back up. Things went pretty well there, and now I just want to make sure I get to these Aether pots before we close out the match, and thankfully this rally should actually make that pretty easy, since he's always going to rally Julia here, since there aren't any isolations. And then Ishtar will dance her, and well, we'll go on from there.
Yes.
We'll just actually have Ash rally Peony to bruise Julia and Sothis. But We should really need the debuffs on Julia here.
We must
He is a
end
red
this.
mage, and Guinevere's not
Maybe
really
the
going to have
best
issues
way.
with that.
Lord Asker, guide us.
And we'll just move Ash over here. And say go. Rallies should come through here and make sure that we don't actually close out the match this turn. And then Julia moves in, and, well, she doesn't actually get to use her solo skills, so this ends up being a very one-sided fight. It still would have been one-sided, but maybe a little bit less. And then Note moves in and attacks Zelgius, but as usual, she's not really getting
Let's
through
see how
him,
you handle this.
even without any buffs. And
Truly?
from there, Ash can just break this fence, which
That's
lets
correct.
Airwork up here and
The glimmer of life.
pick up our second Aether pot.
Very well.
And we'll just have Guinevere knock out Sothis to prevent any more rally shenanigans. Before letting her enemy phase Ishtar and
I
close out
bestow
the
my
match.
blessing. Good morning.
It is nice to just be able to soak that -7 from the Bright Shrine all the match long. Some very considerate buffs for Guinevere. This match should be a pretty straightforward one. They've got an interesting setup here with two different Edelgards as part of their front line, and two red cavalry mages as their main damage dealers and threats. This rally on Leaf can potentially let him get into awkward spots, especially if you're just trying to bait him, but with Raisin as the 7th unit, unless you snipe one of these units before things get going, he doesn't have a way to get danced and follow through afterwards. It's kind of interesting to see multiple defenses with 7th slot dancers this week. I don't quite know why they started showing up as much. The defense tactic and drive defense from Raisin can make this front line pretty bulky too, especially with Note's bonus doubler, although it is a little odd to see her not using Menace and just using the Threaten instead. And this Cancel Affinity on Sothis is also a very interesting pick. I'm not quite sure what she's planning to go after with that. In any case, I'm not really expecting to have too many problems with this. It should be a pretty clean match again. We'll start
The
by
glimmer of
having
life.
Air use the Super Guidance from Ash to test this trap. It's the real one,
this
it's
way.
great. Then we'll have her
Yes,
break this
caress.
flower bed too, which
Your
lets
orders.
Zelgius move up here.
Like
And we'll
this.
smite Guinevere over here and continue isolating Leaf for the next
Are
turn,
you certain?
and just wait. The turn ends because, well, safety fence, and, well, nothing really moves until you approach it, so from
Very
here
well.
we can just get things going by moving Guinevere forwards and
morning.
dancing her.
What's your plan?
Move Zelgius forward to protect her, and
you
then let
certain?
Guinevere move up and knock out Raisin. Knocking out Raisin means that the rest of this map just starts moving right away, and should let us knock out everything except, ideally, the Note. There's a chance that Sothis survives here too, but that shouldn't be too big a deal.
Truly?
We'll just move Ash and
That's
Air
caress.
over a little bit to reach this pot on the side and say go. Yep. Helena moves in first, mostly because she can do that pre-combat damage with gifted magic, but she's not getting anything done in combat, and Guinevere can just heal that right back up. And then Edelgard moves in next because, similarly, she can do a little bit,
Say your prayers.
but she doesn't survive the Black Luna on the second hit. And from there, everything should just be a clean sweep for these two. Down goes Leaf. And down goes Edelgard.
Say your prayers.
And from here, we'll see where Note moves. Okay, she went that way. It's actually a bit unfortunate that they moved this way instead of chasing towards Guinevere, but I guess Note could do more damage to Noah than she can to Zelgius, which is fair. So instead we're just going to have Guinevere move up and secure this pot, and let Zelgius break this bolt tower, and start having everybody evacuate. Breaking this should funnel Note into this direction and make her a little bit easier to pick up after we get to this pot. And we'll just dance her from here, move her further up, and let Ash move over tile 2. So this moves in, gets herself knocked out pretty handily.
One will live, one will die.
And Note can't reach us. From here we'll just move Guinevere over once,
Good morning.
dance her,
Are
let
you
her move
certain?
down here to pick up the Aether pot,
What's your plan?
move Zelgius over to save her from the spooky Note,
The glimmer of life.
and so go. And it should be pretty easy for him to close out the match right here.
One will live, one will die.
This match is a bit of a different layout than usual. They've got a legendary Edelgard on their defense, who I don't really see very often, even during Fire Weeks. To be fair, it's very hard to make sure that her solo-oriented kit works properly on a defense team. And they're kind of doubling down on that by also using a Fallen Dimitri. Having 2 units with this many solo conditions baked into their kit can make things a little tricky if the defense just takes advantage of that and makes sure that they attack when they're next to another unit, and can really lower the threat level overall. They do also have a Krom who's in season here, and this Gustav who's a near-safe bodyguard for everything except this Fallen Dimitri. The Darting Breath is an interesting choice for him, and I'm not sure it's the best option. He's not using distant counter, so it's actually pretty easy to pick him off with a ranged unit before Azura dances him at least. But even Azura's dance isn't too hard to get around thanks to either having a safety fence or just using Nilla to isolate her. Or both. It is a different team though, and there are a few things that can definitely catch people out if they're not being careful, like change fate, of course, and just Azura dancing Dimitri on an even turn so that you might not be expecting him to have that extra movement. And also, Edelgard with her rally can potentially get into the fight and wreak some havoc if she gets danced if, let's say, you do snipe Dimitri. I'm not actually planning to approach this from this side of the map at all though. Instead we're going to just move up on the left side and beat things out from there. I don't think it'll be too difficult for Gwyn and Zelgius to handle, but we'll see. We might end up tanking Dimitri by the end of this.
What's your plan?
We're just using Ash's teleport here at the start to make it fairly easy to pick up all of these structures on the first turn.
Truly?
I'll keep you alive.
Like
And
this.
then we'll move Noah in to isolate Azura for the second turn, since they don't hit our safety fence. And from there we'll just let Ash move in and open up this catapult and have Peony jump up and dance her to let her get back out of the way of this Krom.
We must end
Then
this.
Guinevere can move all the way in and break this Aether pot,
Truly?
and then Ash can move in here to open up this wall, which lets Zelgius move up to keep Guinevere safe.
It
And
will
then
be
I'll just
done.
move people over and
Death's caress.
see how this enemy phase goes. Note moves in, but even though she can do a little bit of damage, she's not punching through Zelgius.
One will die.
And Chrom can do a chunk of damage to Guinevere, but it's not enough to one-shot her, and since the only other ranged on their team is Azura, he's not in any danger at this point. And so this can move in, do some damage thanks to targeting Zelgius' res.
One will live. One will die.
But it's not enough to concern him, and even if Edelgard can attack Zelgius directly, she's not
No
surviving
draw,
this
no
fight.
escape.
And then Azura attacks into Guinevere and helpfully heals both her and Zelgius. And from there, Gustav can't reach us, so it's just him and Dimitri for the rest of this.
I do not
So to
object.
start this, we're just going to rally Guinevere, which bruises both of these. It only hits their defensive stats, so it's not really helping Zelgius survive for this. But it'll be fun to watch him tank Dimitri anyway.
Your orders.
We'll just have him jump past Guinevere here and have
Shrugged?
Ash move this way, which
Very
lets
well.
Guinevere jump past her to break the second Aether pot,
The glimmer of
while
life.
we have Ash and
I
Noah
bestow
continue to
my
move forward.
blessing.
Dimitri can do a chunk of damage here thanks to his weapon's effects, and we can't actually knock him out. But unfortunately, Gustav can't follow through,
Say your prayers.
and Zelgius can knock him out pretty handily.
We must
Then we'll just
end
have
this.
Guinevere attack Dimitri and close out the match. That was a fun one. Let's see what we get next. This match will be a fun one. I haven't actually seen too many Catria setups this week. This one's a little neat since they're also backing us up with Elise and carrying a Restore and Dazzling both, which can really change the formation and how it's positioned if the attacking team isn't very careful. You can isolate her, but if you isolate Elise, you're not isolating a Selena with Rally Trap or Triandra with her Dance Trap on this note. And of course, just letting her attack can make it very hard to tank any follow-ups thanks to the in-combat penalties that her weapon provides for her allies. This Edelgard's a little sneaky too, since if you try to tank from here, she can actually warp in and triangle attack whoever's standing here, and Bonfire from a Fallen Edelgard tends to do a lot of work. One of the fun problems here for me was trying to make sure that we were going to successfully bait a Selena instead of having her use a rally, and I'm actually going to need to wait for this even attack wave to go off, since without it she's not going to do enough damage to attack Guinevere instead of rallying. Assuming I've figured this out correctly, but I think I have. So we're going to take advantage of this safety fence to make sure nothing moves right away, and take this first turn to just start moving
We
into
must
position
end
and
this.
open up a couple of
Glimmer
structures.
of life.
One of the fun parts about this too is actually seeing a level 9 Bright Shrine out in the wild, which
Are
is
you
going to make
certain?
things very interesting for Guinevere with an attack speed unity. So we'll kick
Really?
things off by just having Ash ruse their entire team,
Ready.
while also giving Gwyn and
My
Zelgius
Asker guide
a
us.
few buffs. And then from there
Very
we'll
well.
have Guinevere warp forwards, test the trap. I didn't want to try to break this pot since
What's your plan?
having Zelgius here and potentially getting attacked by Selena would be a little bad for him.
Death's
Then we can just have Air pick up the other pot,
It will be done.
move more over this way, and say go. Nope. Triandra swings first. That's actually interesting, since I thought Selena would do a bit more damage, but maybe it isn't taking the brave hit into account for it. Either way, Triandra's not getting anything done here. And Selena... oh, actually rallies now that Triandra isn't applying her weapons debuff. That does let Sithis get a triangle attack off, which can do some damage to Zelgius. I wasn't expecting it to happen at all, but we've still got more than enough health to work with for this, and, well, Elise is just going to heal Zelgius. Who should take absolutely no damage from Catria. No. She doesn't actually even go for the triangle attack here. Probably since she has a guard effect applied, so she wouldn't be able to really do anything. Selena surviving the turn is a little bit awkward for us, since I was expecting to just be able to break this Aether pot and close out the match from there, but testing this trap might get a little tricky, since Zelgius is going to take some damage from Note, and we also can't just break the pod, since that makes it very easy for Selena to reach Zelgius. So what we're going to do instead is just make sure that Zelgius is the only one who gets buffs, since I think when she's not getting sabotaged, and I actually forgot that Ash was gravitied from this trap. It's okay, Zelgius shouldn't need the extra attack and speed to handle Note, and it's important to make sure that we actually bait the Selena this turn. Oh, come on. Fine. She'll run out of rally targets eventually.
Say your prayers.
And it's not like Zelgius has any problems with Note, even when she has bonus doublers online. Actually forgot to add in Milla's Breath, so slight miscalculation. We were off by 2 damage from baiting Selena. But that's okay. From here, we can actually move forward and just have Guinevere knock Selena out.
Maybe this way. We must end this. Ha!
And then you can also have Ash move up and rally Zelgius.
I bestow my
Smite
blessing.
him. It's Milla.
I'll keep you
And
alive.
just let him move here and tank Edelgarda without any issues at all. Even if she attacks him directly, it's not really going to make a difference, since we do get to hit the Black Luna on the unmitigated swing,
Say your prayers.
and that's a little bit too much for her. This match will be a fun rematch near the end of the week, though not quite the one I was expecting earlier. They actually had a maxed out Peleus as their lead before today, and I was a bit disappointed when I saw the 6-unit defense until I saw exactly how invested this legendary in Season Marth is, along with an equally impressive Naysala. I'm really hoping Naysala gets a cool refine. He should be getting one in the near future, actually, so looking forward to that. We're also backing those two up with a Julia, who, while threatening, can be a little awkward with this guidance from Naysala, since if she uses it, it turns her entire solo kit offline. And a Sarah, who is fueled by a ground orders from Triandra with a return trap. It's a bit of a sneakier return trap than is immediately obvious, since there's no Bernadetta, which means the only way to turn it on is to successfully test one of these traps without defusing it. If you do, though, it can flip Julia forwards and definitely catch people off guard. And then of course a Wings of Mercy Sothis, just to try and sneak in for a knockout after Naysala survives, ideally. And Triandra as a dancer. Honestly, it's not a bad setup at all. Even if it only does have 6 units, there's a lot of things to be worried about, and this Marth especially can be a pain to deal with if you don't have someone who can match his speed. Thankfully, I think Zelgius can do that, and that should make this a pretty straightforward match. We're going to get things started right away. Sarah's Kia staff should always hit Triandra thanks to the sabotages, and
Truly?
that means we can just rally Guinevere.
Are you
Move her
certain?
up here. That's the real heavy trap, good. Expected that.
Ready.
And we'll dance Ash and give Zelgius the extra points of attack and
It
speed
will
he
be
needs
done.
to tie Marth. Smite him over for some defense buffs,
keep you
and have him
alive.
jump all the way up here.
Death's
We can just flip
caress.
Mila this way. And say go.
Lord Asker, guide us.
I think the first thing that happens, yep, is that Marth goes in. Oh, and he does actually get to attack without being countered. Unfortunate, but we should still be more than fine. I wonder what I missed with his speed. I really thought Zelgius was going to nail that. Oh well. In the end, it doesn't matter too much, since Sothis doesn't reach us, and neither does Sarah. Actually, went and double-checked my math, and somehow forgot to add in bonus doubler stats, which meant that Zelgius
keep you
needed the
alive.
full
I do not
rally
object.
from Ash to avoid being swept by this binding blade. It's unfortunate, but not the worst.
Truly?
So we'll just end up letting Zelgius not handle Marth.
Orders.
By moving him down here, we should be able to have Guinevere one-shot Marth. You can play it that Unity game,
Good
and
morning.
then we'll just dance Zelgius,
What's your
and
plan?
swap him forwards, and say go. I don't need to worry about ending the match here since, well, Sarah's never going to actually get counterattacked, and that gives us all the time in the world to pick up these pots for later. Sothis, meanwhile, unlike Marth, can't handle Zelgius.
One will live, one will die.
And down she goes.
Very
From
well.
here we should be able to start closing things out. I'm just going to let Guinevere knock Sarah out, since we don't have to worry about Triandra attacking us this turn. And knocking out Sarah will stop Naysala from rallying instead of attacking Zelgius.
Maybe this
We'll just
way.
dance her forwards,
We must end this.
let her open up this Aether pot, since the only target Naysala can attack is Guinevere still. And we'll move him forwards,
Lord Asker,
give
guide
him a
us.
rally,
Yes.
and say go. He moves in. I'm surprised he wasn't actually attacking before, since he can do damage. But it doesn't matter now. And from
Yes.
there, Eric can just hop past Dash to snag our second Aether
Are you
pot,
certain?
and we'll let Guinevere handle Triandra, after face-checking
Ready.
into the real bolt trap and getting danced.
We must end this.
This match will be a really fun way to close out the week. It's another rematch, and this Marianne definitely had me looking forward to it. I haven't actually seen a maxed out Marianne in the wild yet, and this one's very impressive. The combination of impact and null follow-up and her weapon's damage reduction, and the lull that she also gets with it, make her really hard to actually knock out in one round of combat. And if you can't do that, Requiem Dance can enable Edelgard, or just let her get danced by Triandra and attack again. And especially with a Catria enabling triangle attacks, that makes her very, very hard to stop. This Triandra is also just very impressive too, and is a very good backup threat for this Marianne as a ranged attacker, and the joint drive and drive attack can seriously boost her damage output if you're not being careful. They've also got this maxed out, almost maxed out, Brave Edelgard, seeing 63 visible defense thanks to these defense boosting mythics is really, really cool. And this plus 10 hell is neat to see too. I'd like to put my own hell back on my defense at some point, I just need to actually get around to retooling the defense for that. And of course they've got a Hardy Fighter, Aegis, Deflect Magic Hector as a far save bodyguard, which does a lot of work to keep them safe from any hit and run approaches. The Impact on and Hardy Bearing on Catria also do a lot of work for her to just make sure that she can initiate safely instead of getting baited. And altogether this team's really, really solid, and I think hard to handle if you don't have some very specific units to deal with them. Thankfully, Guinevere should be one of those specific units, and I think we should be able to handle this without too many problems. Assuming I've figured things out correctly and I'm not messing up basic math again. We're going to get this started right away. I'm going to smite Guinevere forward and give her some def and res buffs. Then reposition her down, which tests Bolt Trap, that's good. Then we'll rally her. Losing this core of their team is nice. Not necessary, I think, but
Very well.
it should always be helpful to apply a guard effect. And then we can break this tactic room,
Good morning.
dance air, and get her all the way out of harm's way. And let Zelgius move in here to keep Gwyn safe from the Catria and any other melee that reaches this turn. Chandra moves in first. She, I think, is the only one on their team who can do damage. And it's not much. And there, I think it's a toss-up between Catria and Marianne. Oh, Catria goes in first. Well, she'll survive the Black Luna, thanks. Oh wait, no. Don't know why I forgot Hardy Bearing isn't working in the enemy phase. But we do get to see Marianne doing 0x2 to Guinevere, and that's... oof. I feel a little bad about doing this to Marianne, especially after the Mariannes I've foddered off, but it is still fun to see Guinevere doing so well, and the rest of them can't get in range. The turn went really well, and now we're just going to let Zelgius handle all of this melee in one turn, and close things out on turn 2, which is fun, after we pick up the Aether pots to boot.
Are you certain?
That approach should be pretty easy. We'll just have Guinevere move forward,
Maybe
dance her,
this way. We must end
and grab the second one. And since we picked up this, or found the real Bolt Trap already, we don't have to worry about testing this when we rally Zelgius,
like this.
and smite him onto it,
Your orders.
and then swap Peony forwards.
The glimmer of life.
Note should do some damage here, I think, but without triangle attack, she's not really too threatening,
Say your prayers.
especially when Zelgius can just wipe her out in one hit like that. Hell can attack as well, but yeah,
No draw.
Zelgius can one-shot her twice very easily. And then he can do the same to Edelgard,
Let's see how you handle this.
before closing things out with Hector, who doesn't even get his weapon online here.
Let's see how you handle this.
That was a fun match. It's always good to see some highly invested units on defenses like that. It was another really fun week overall. It was great to just let Zelgius and Guinevere rampage through an entire week again. It's unfortunate that we didn't get to hit rank 1 for it, but it'll happen again at some point. Next week should be a lot of fun too. I'm hoping to take Vital Astro Dimitri out for a spin and see how well he does. Looking forward to it. I do have a Discord server if you'd like to hang out in the chat or get updates about videos and other stuff. There's a link in the description, and there's also a Patreon page down there if you'd like to help support the channel. As always, I hope you've enjoyed the video, good luck with your own matches, and I'll see you next time.